Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I'm Andrew Musgrove, joined by Aaron Stokes. Hope you guys are all doing well. Today we bring you a bit of a different episode because once again, ladies and gents, Aaron Stokes is off on holiday. Yes, more holidays than, who shall we say, Callum Wilson has injuries, this lad. That fair?
I think that's a little bit harsh, actually.
Callum Wilson.
No, on myself, I would say.
Very special episode to come. Aaron's going to introduce it because he's come up with it. Before we do, I've got your little present.
Lovely.
Are you ready for this?
It's a pre-going on holiday present.
It is. You can read it on the plane.
Lovely.
Come on then, unbox it for those listening.
So what we have here, are you going to take it away?
No, you explain what you've just got out of the box there.
Andrew has just gifted me here one of our Newcastle United season reviews. It's a souvenir special that we've done here at the Chronicle. I want to say it's out on sale
now. It's out now.
Yeah, it's out on our shop on the Reach website, and it's also in all good supermarkets. It is essentially everything you need to know about the historic season that has just came by. We've got interviews, we've got features, we've got plenty of photos in there as well, just to relive what was a fantastic season.
Show the people watching the front of it, because this is a bit of design work. I mean, look at that. I would buy it just for that. The front page is absolutely tremendous. For those listening, it's a black and white kind of outline of Eddie Howe with some big moments within him, so to speak. So it's a beautiful design. The link to get it is in the podcast description box, as is the link to Saily. They are the eSIM app providers that you need for when you go on holiday to keep yourself connected at affordable prices over 200 destinations. And if you want a discounted price on your eSIM provided by Saily, hit the link in the podcast description box. All you've got to do is download their app when you sign up and you will be away. Right, Aaron, come on. Usually I'm the creative one and you just follow suit, but you've come up with this one today.
Yeah, stick with us. Yeah, we're gonna explain what the episode is that we're going to do today. We needed something fairly timeless, didn't we, that we could record ahead of time, and this is what we've came up with. Now, we've done similar in the past with, like we did last summer, where we picked one player from each Premier League club that we would realistically like to sign, and we've gone down
I don't think we put it into formation this time.
No, we didn't. So we've gone slightly different this time. What we're going to do is we're going to create a signing 11. So we're going to go from goalkeeper all the way through to striker. 4-4-2 is the formation I've gone for. And in every position, we're going to pick a realistic signing that we would sort of like Newcastle United to make in an ideal world. But we can't have more than one player from each Premier League club. For example, if I pick a goalkeeper from Manchester United, then I can't have a Manchester United player in any. Well, not that I would pick a goalkeeper from Manchester
I really hope
United.
You don't do that.
But you get the point. If we pick, one team for one position, then we can't do it. So I've gone 4-4-2. Hopefully this is going to work.
Yeah, I've gone, what have I gone? 4 at the back, 2 wingers, centre midfielder, number 10, and then 2 up top.
I would just say before people start getting in the comments, this is not the starting 11 that we think Newcastle are going to start the season with. We do not want Newcastle United to sign all 11 players, nor do we think they are going to. It's just a little bit of fun as to some of the players Newcastle United in a realistic world could sign.
I think that's the key word, realistic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's where we might have a few debates, because I think I've gone for a couple that are maybe not as realistic as some, but we'll give it a go and we'll wing it. And I must say, I've put probably quite a bit more thought into Andrew, because Andrew rocked up today and said, "Oh, I don't need to research. I'm just gonna do it off the top of my head." And by the looks of it, he picked an 11 quicker than I did. So
yeah, but don't worry, I think I've got some decent players in here. I mean, even though they're meant to be realistic, still rather expensive players. Some of them.
Same.
Before we kick on, though, we did win Best Sport Podcast Award.
We did.
For 2025.
Yeah, neither of us were there to collect it in person, unfortunately.
No, but we did beat Villa, which is always nice. Yeah. So congratulations to yourself. Thank you for all the hard work that you do on this podcast. And again, to you guys watching and listening, it is a pleasure as always. And hopefully we'll retain it next year as well. But what a season, though. Newcastle United winning a cup. And then we've done the same as well.
Well, we said, didn't we? We went to an awards ceremony back in February, I want to say. And people were asking, would you rather win then or Newcastle win the cup a week later? And we all sort of said, well, we want Newcastle to win the cup. And then they've done that. And then we've won another one at the end of the season. So, yeah, I mean, look, all the thanks should go to you. You're the man who drives this pod and makes it what it is. So, yeah, and thank you to everyone who watches and listens.
Very kind words. Appreciate that. Do you want to start with your pick then for goalkeeper?
I'm going to start because, look, I promise, guys, if you're listening or watching, it does get more interesting than this. But I've gone for probably the one goalkeeper that Newcastle United have been linked with this summer. So I've gone to start with Burnley's James Trafford.
I have as well. And at the
There we
time,
go, that's fairly
there we
easy.
go. So, because what we're also going to do, ladies and gents, you might remember that we did the XI build up of players who were seriously linked to Newcastle United over the years, and then we picked a starting 11, and based on if we both picked the same player, they went into the starting 11. If they didn't, we then had to persuade each other of our choices, and whoever won the argument would get the pick. So we're going to try and do that again. It's going to be a little bit more difficult because of the one player per club rule, but we will try. At the time of recording this, which is Thursday afternoon, James Trafford has once again been linked to Newcastle United. Informal talks have begun, we would say. So by the time this comes out, things may have moved forward. Obviously, the transfer window is shut for now, so nothing will be confirmed. The big question is, £40 million, is James Trafford worth that?
I think you could make an argument that James Trafford is, in today's market, worth 40 million. I think the real question is, do Newcastle, at this stage of the summer, with all the targets that they're looking at, with all the outfield positions they want to strengthen, can Newcastle United, one, afford to spend 40 million on a position where do they really need to strengthen? But I think just on the question of is he worth it, I would suggest maybe he's 22, a long career ahead of him as a goalkeeper. He's coming off one of the best championship seasons we've ever seen. Newcastle have admired him for a while. England international, ticks a lot of boxes, brilliant with the ball at his feet. I think a lot of fans listening to this will think 40 million is too much. But I think they may be thinking that because of where the context of this summer and what Newcastle have got to spend.
My concern is because he had such a shocker the first time around in the Premier League. Does a brilliant campaign in the Championship where he's broken all sort of records mean he's ready to be number one in the Premier League? I hope so, just for the lad in general, let alone being Newcastle's number one. But I hope so. And I hope even more, especially if Newcastle splash that money on him. And I'm not really sure what the answer is, though.
But do you think the reason he had such a shocker of a first season was because of that team he was in? I mean, that Vincent Kompany Burnley team was a horror show, really. And I know he lost a spot on the team to Muric, who went to Ipswich. But, can you maybe put some of the blame on that?
Yeah, potentially, because Kompany just didn't want to move from his ethos, did he? So if he maybe played a bit more defensively, then maybe it would have worked. It's going to be interesting to see how Burnley do handle the Premier League this time around. I mean, it'd be a big blow if Burnley lost Trafford, so you can understand why they're asking so much for him. But look, England international, you've mentioned his age. If Newcastle United have done their homework and they think he is good enough to be Newcastle United number one, and they can get 8 to 10 years service out of him, which isn't out of the question, then actually £40 million would be an absolute bargain.
Yeah.
But it's just that question mark over, is he Premier League ready?
Yeah, I put a tweet out today essentially asking fans, would you take James Trafford now in the context of the summer? And someone very cheekily put, well, we may as well just wait till next summer when Burnley are relegated and we can get him for cheap. So maybe that's the...
But look,
thinking.
If they delayed it, which I don't think they will do, I think they'll do their best at least to come to some sort of agreement. If they delayed it and he wasn't have a brilliant season, then the price jumps up again by another £20 million.
And also, there's nothing to suggest another club like Chelsea who are looking for a
goalkeeper. Of course,
Chelsea who are obviously look like they're going to fail with their bid to get Maignan from AC Milan. They are in the market for a goalkeeper. Tottenham have been linked in the past. There's clubs that will be looking at James Trafford now and saying, we're not going to wait till next summer. We're going to strike now. So it's a very interesting dynamic.
We mentioned last week on the Monday show about the priorities, and it comes down to that really, because I'm kind of getting closer to the line which says if you want a player and you know the price, just go and pay it, sort of thing. As long as it's not ridiculous, and I don't think £40 million is ridiculous. I think it's a little bit too much, but I don't think it's over the top. I don't think it's extreme in its nature. I just think we don't want this to drag on. We don't want another saga like the Mark Gay situation. If they think he's good enough, just let's get it sorted. But it comes down to priority, because as you say, £40 million out of a budget of 150, 200 million at most, maybe you're grimacing there. It doesn't leave you much to strengthen right wing, centre forward, and right sided centre back.
Exactly. I think as we say, it's probably not the highest priority at the minute, is it?
But final point on this.
Yeah.
Newcastle United are moving. They're in a transition to becoming a team that is going to have the majority of possession. Now you need a good goalkeeper with the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
Nick Pope is not that. So by not getting James Trafford in, who's coming in really because of his ball play, are you delaying the process there?
Potentially. I mean, look, I think a lot of people would make the argument that Newcastle will be absolutely fine going into another season with Nick Pope as our number one. There's no suggestion that, or there's no certainty that if James Trafford did come in, he would instantly replace Nick Pope as the club's out and out number one. I certainly think it would be a battle between the two to start with. But yeah, as you say, Eddie Howe wants the style of play, and unfortunately, Nick Pope isn't the man for it, as good as he is at shortstop.
On to well, that's our first man.
Yeah. So there we go. That was nice and simple. James Trafford goes in. So now we both obviously can't pick a Burnley player for the rest of the squad.
I was going to do Ashley Barnes.
Yeah, very good.
Right back. Now this is a pointless question anyway, because they're not going to sign the right back because they have 3 solid right backs already. Which
unless Kieran Trippier goes,
I don't think he's going to go.
But if he does, though,
you've talked me around. His performances have talked me around. So I will say that off the bat. For me, I don't think they'll bring a right back in because they have Livramento, Kieran Trippier, and the wonderful Emil Kraft. However, if they were to do so, Walker's Peters for me from Southampton would be my pick.
So again, just to clarify, we're allowing relegated and promoted teams, aren't we? So we can obviously get James Trafford from Burnley, and Andrew obviously wants Kyle Walker-Peters from Southampton.
I think he's versatile.
Yeah.
Surprised to learn he's only 28.
Yeah.
He's going to be on a free transfer. I mean, I really could have had him down at left back as well, and maybe give him a left back choice, maybe a more realistic option, as you'll find out in a moment. But removing the fact that they're not going to go out and sign the right back, he's proven in the Premier League he'll be on relatively low wages. He's a good player. He does a job.
Yeah.
He's not one of those that's going to grab the headlines. Not one of those that you'll get on the back of your shirt. But if Newcastle United were in the market for a versatile right back / left back, full back, then I think they could do a lot worse than Walker-Peters.
I've seen a few fans on Twitter this week saying maybe that he's going on a free. It's time to maybe pounce. There's a little bit of backup. I don't think I would be too against that on a free. I've gone slightly different from my right back pick, and I think this isn't going to happen this summer. But let's just say, in a horrible world, Tino Livramento joins Manchester City.
150 million?
No, not 150 million. My pick, and this means that I can't have Anthony Elanga or Morgan Gibbs-White or, dare I say, Chris Wood on my team. I would go for Ola Aina at Nottingham Forest.
Really?
I really, really, really like him. I just think he's so good, both going forward and defensively. He looks like he's a really sort of William Asula type in the dressing room. I just love him. I think he would be absolutely fantastic at Newcastle. If, obviously, as we say, Trippier or Livramento wasn't there. So he would be my pick. And as I say, that means Anthony Elanga is now out of my potential team.
One of those that kind of came from nowhere. I mean, naturally,
was Chelsea.
I was going to say, obviously, come on. He's had still a couple of years at Forest, and I'm surprised not a few other teams in for him. But I mean, that obviously it would hurt to lose someone like Livramento, but it wouldn't be as big of a blow if you're signing someone like him. Like you say, it's not going to happen. But that rules any of the Forest men out of your starting 11.
Yeah.
First centre back then. Mark Gee for me.
Yeah, I've got him in as well.
Well, it was just inevitable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we could go over this. We're not going to waste everyone's time going over it. But like the Trafford thing, I think if you've got that budget to spend, roughly what they want, okay, try and go in, maybe get 5-10 million knocked off it, maybe throw my target into the deal as well.
We spoke about it last Monday, didn't we? For anyone who hasn't listened to that pod, I'll just go back and you'll hear us talking about, okay, for 20 minutes. If the price is right, do the deal. If it's not, go to the continent and find a cheaper version.
I would quite literally like to wake up on what day does this window reopen?
Monday, the day of this pod.
Does it?
Monday reopens on
literally opens on Monday?
Yeah, today, obviously.
Today, obviously, because it is the Monday show. Well, there you go. I would like to wake up and just know one way or the other.
Well, there we go. As we say, we're recording this ahead of time. We might be putting this pod out.
I didn't announce that it was going out. To be fair, I was going to pick and choose. I might give them a Sunday surprise.
There you go.
They've gone to Sam Fender, not enjoyed it, and thought, I need a podcast. There we go. But it is coming out on Monday now, ladies and gents. Cheers for that, Aaron. He'll be listening while he's sunning himself on the beach. Mark Gee. We'll not go over Mark Gee once again. That centre-back position?
I, until the very last minute, had Zabani from Bournemouth written down, but I changed it. And again, this probably might not be the most realistic, but Newcastle have been linked with them before, and I wanted to get a City player in. So I put Nathan Ake.
Nah, too old. Not realistic at all, because he's 30. He's also played quite a lot for City over the recent seasons. Now, I think his wages would be too much as well.
Right.
So I'm just going to shut that down straight away and say that's not
me too.
realistic. I know Eddie Howe, like someone's worked with him before.
Zabarnia then, if I hadn't made the
No,
last minute
this
switch?
was one of Sam Mulner's alternatives to Mark Gay. You go back and watch last Wednesday's episode, I think it is, or listen to it. Sam Mulner offered a few alternatives, and he was one of them. But again, he's going to cost you the best part of 65, 70 million pounds, I think. So
Well, it looks like, yeah, I mean, as according to
PSG being linked,
yeah,
and
the
all
Guardian
that, so.
2 days ago, 59 million is potentially what Bournemouth want from him. They've obviously just sold Dean Huijsen as well to Real Madrid, so they've lost. Well, they would be losing both their centre backs. He's been linked with Newcastle a lot, hasn't he? Eddie Howe definitely likes him. I thought he was very, very good when he played against Newcastle this season. 22 probably fits the profile. Let's say I've put him in my team instead of Nathan Ake.
I mean, Bournemouth have they've got a good scouting set up there. They seem to find these gems, don't they? They've already gone, well, they're making moves to sign. I think it's the Lens left back for when their current left back goes to Liverpool. So they're not waiting around to strengthen and spend that money. Yeah, look, he's had a good season. As Sam Mulner's been underrated, perhaps because Howson had such a good season as well. Unless it's a stupid bid, I can't see them selling their other top class centre back.
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see that one. But yes, that's more realistic, I think, than
Okay.
Nathan Ake. My pick is Nathan Collins.
Yeah, see, I considered Nathan Collins.
Now, he cost Brentford £23 million, record signing in 2023. He's only 24, which again surprised me. I thought he was a few years older. He's looked strong, good in the air. I think he lacks a little bit of pace. But then, if you're getting more Gay alongside him, I don't think they'll sign two of them. But again, we're just having a little bit of fun here. But I think he's a very good Premier League centre back. Question again, how much he would cost you? I think Brentford would probably double their money. We'll find out when Spurs come knocking once Thomas Frank's appointed, which he probably will be by the time this podcast comes out. But for me, he is one of the best centre backs in the Premier League.
I nearly put him in my team for my Brentford option, but we'll realise why I didn't later on. I remember eyebrows being raised when he signed for that amount of money, and people thinking, wow, that's a big boost. But he's a fantastic player. And I've got a stat for you. Do you want to know a stat about Nathan Collins? Nathan Collins is the only outfield player in the Premier League to have played every single minute this season.
Wow. So he's fit,
dependable,
healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good shout, Nathan Collins.
Do you know what, though? This is one of the hardest picks because, not because it was someone else was in my mind, but because Brentford.
Yeah, they've got so many.
You could go through 6 or 7 players that I think would really improve this Newcastle United squad.
I did that with Forest as well, yeah.
So I landed on Nathan Collins. I think £40 million probably would be enough to get him the lure of Champions League football. It's going to be interesting with Brentford whether things start to fall apart because Thomas Frank is off to Spurs.
Yeah, it depends who they replace Frank with, because there's been lots of talk that they were going to take his assistant and maybe give him a promotion. Now it looks like he's going to Spurs with him. I've seen people like Scott Parker linked. This is a huge decision for Brentford.
I think Thomas Frank leaving is a bit like Eddie Howe leaving Newcastle United, simply because they're so meticulous in what they do. A lot of managers maybe pass it off to other members of staff, and we know Eddie Howe, who's got Jason Tyndall and that team around him, but he's involved in absolutely everything. And Thomas Frank just loves every single detail. So I'm really intrigued. I hope it doesn't fall apart because I've loved watching Brentford play. I'm actually really annoyed he's going to Tottenham because I do not like Tottenham whatsoever, but I do really like Thomas Frank. But I think they may become vulnerable, and players might start looking around and saying, well, look, Brentford finishing 8th or 9th, is that the ceiling for Brentford? Do I make a move and say I want to go and join a Champions League side or side playing in Europe? Of course, Spurs can offer that as well as Newcastle. So I think Brentford will be worried slightly about players' ideas this summer.
Yeah, I think, like you say, I think it's a really important move for Brentford to get this next manager right, because they've made such progress in such little time, and one wrong move and they could really struggle.
Should we decide on the centre back now then? Collins?
I think we'll go Collins because I was going to pick him. So we'll go. So there's Brentford off the table.
Yeah, Gay and Collins. I mean, out of them, if you had a choice, Gay or Collins to partner?
I'll go Mark Gay.
Mark Gay alongside Botman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. On to left back.
Yeah, so speaking of Kirkers going to Liverpool, this has sort of informed my thinking about this. I've gone Kostas Tsimikas from Liverpool,
Okay.
who I think looks like he's going to probably be third choice at Anfield this season if Kirkers signs and Robertson stays. Again, look, how realistic it is, I don't know.
I've not been
But
impressed by him.
I like him. Great going forward. I think he could be perfect competition for Lewis Hall. I like Tsimikas.
I like talking left backs because I can't remember if it was last summer or last January. In my head, I made you the Newcastle United left back correspondent because you had quite a few stories about Newcastle chasing left backs. Kukurea was one of them.
Yeah.
And my pick was another one that you had a bit of a
Robinson.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Anthony Robinson from Fulham, 27. So a little bit over the age limit that we believe Newcastle United are after. How much would it cost for him, do you reckon?
I think it would cost you a lot of money.
I've got £30 million written down here.
I think it would cost
More than that?
Yeah.
2028, I think, his contract. 2029 it runs to.
I like Robertson, though. Again,
solid, isn't he?
Great going forward. Such attacking presence. Big, strong, physical.
US international.
Yeah.
But the Liverpool chap, I've just never
been a fan of.
Never been a fan. And it comes down to when you see him, the rare appearances that he started, and you go, that's the weak link. That's the weak link right there.
Yeah. Well, Kostas Tsimikas, weirdly, and not many people probably remember this, actually played a big part in Newcastle's transfer strategy. Not because they wanted to sign him, but they obviously, Liverpool were going to sign Jamal Lewis, and then they didn't. They signed Kostas Tsimikas.
He's been there that long.
It meant Newcastle United could go and get famous left back Jamal Lewis, who's
He's
obviously
been
now
there 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, not for me. I mean, Rob, again, this is a bit unrealistic because you look and you think, well, Lewis Hall fit, he's starting. Tino Livramento can also play there if Kieran Trippier stays on. I mean, ideally, you want another left back in to play backup to Lewis Hall. Matt Target is going to go. They do need a left back. So the question comes in again about priority. They're not going to go and spend 30-odd million on a left back. So that kind of rules out Anthony Robinson. I mean, how much are we saying for the Liverpool chap?
He's 29 now. I don't think he would cost anywhere near what Robinson costs.
Maybe we just go back to my right back choice and say you're playing over on the left hand side and supporting Lewis Hall.
Yeah, potentially.
Walker Peters.
Yeah, it's a good shout.
And that means you can get Ian in.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
Should we do that?
We'll
there
do
we
that.
go, ladies and gents. Walker Peters switching over. He's got the left back spot behind Lewis Hall, and Darren has gone for Ian, who I do think is unrealistic, but that's the way that the cookie has crumbled. Unless I can persuade him. Actually, I can't persuade him otherwise because that's the only right back choice. So there we go. Where do you want to go next?
We'll go right wing next.
So,
but my point is now moot because we've obviously picked Nathan Collins for centre back, which means I can't have. Not that Newcastle United are going to get him at this stage of the window. Bryan Mbeumo.
You see, I don't know why you've done that because it's just not going to happen.
But so now that we're on the right wing position, I'll talk through my list. I had at one stage I put Elanga there, then I changed it to Kulusevski, then I changed it to Kudus, then I changed it to Mbeumo, and then I had another player there as well.
Semenyo?
No, I didn't have Semenyo. I had 4 or 5 options there that I could have picked, and I went, well, you know what? Out of all of them, if I could have one, I would have Bryan Mbeumo. So
I think he's absolutely brilliant, but if we're talking realistic, it's just not going to happen. He's going to end up at Manchester United because they're going to pay him the big bucks.
So then, I mean, look, he's not in the team anyway because we've already filled that Brentford slot. So who is going to be in that team?
I had Anthony Elanga down, but because we've gone in at right back, I'm going to have to take Elanga out. But actually, I haven't got a Bournemouth player on my side, so I'm going to put Semenyo in.
Really?
Not a fan?
Nah, I just think for the money he's going to cost, I don't know. I just can't really get on board with him.
So would you rather Elanga than Semenyo?
Yes. I'd rather Kulusevski than Semenyo. I'd rather Kudus than Semenyo.
Kudus, really?
Yeah.
I think he's a talent, attitude-wise, a little bit questionable.
Cost a lot of money, though, wouldn't he?
And Kulusevski is just one of those which I don't think that's realistic.
Not reckon?
He would be my pick because he's if I just could pick someone from the Premier League to play either on the left or right, it would be him.
I mean, it wasn't so long ago that he was potentially going to be let go from Spurs on a free last summer.
I don't think that's realistic.
No.
But I mean, Elanga for me, I think Elanga will sign for Newcastle United. So that's why I put him in here. Not necessarily my first choice at right wing. I think he's a really good player with at least another 2 levels to go. Yes, the price tag raises eyebrows, but I think it could prove to actually be an absolute bargain, as I said on Monday. I think he's got the right numbers, the right attitude, right attributes. That's why I put him there, because I think it will happen. I do like Semenyo though, but I agree the price tag again is a little bit lofty. But I go back to the point, these clubs can be comfortable to ask this because the players are on the good deals, and we just have to put the shoe on the other foot. And if it was Newcastle United in negotiations with someone, they're going to ask for the very best price to potentially sell Anthony Gordon or Alexander Isak or whoever it is the buying clubs want. So yeah,
heavily linked with Tottenham, Antoine Semenyo. But Bournemouth apparently going to demand 65 million, more than Brian and Burma. No, thank you.
His numbers are decent though.
11 goals, 5 assists in the Prem last season. Is he a
give Newcastle a headache, didn't he? I don't know. He's an upgrade on Jacob Murphy. I mean, look,
I don't know. I just look. I understand why Newcastle have profiled him in the past. Right age category, versatile, can use both feet, can play on the left, can play on the right. I'm just not sure on him yet.
The point I think that arises from that, and there's another example in the Bournemouth starting 11 quite often, Alex Scott.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about Newcastle United should just try and forget about Premier League targets and look abroad. But why not strengthen your scouting department, the Championship as well? I mean, Alex Scott, I think, cost them 10, 12 million. I think Semenyo scored from the same team, Bristol, wasn't it? Semenyo cost them maybe 7 or 8.
Palace have worked wonders. They got Eze from the Championship. They got Elise from the Championship. They got Adam Wharton from the Championship. They got Roman Esse from the Championship. So
I guess the argument against that would be that Newcastle are in that position where they need players who can hit the ground running.
Yeah.
That again strengthens the argument that actually Premier League targets, even at an inflated price, is probably the best bet for Eddie Howe and Newcastle United. It makes sense to me, but you can't have it both ways. If you're going to go after Premier League targets, then you just, I think, have to accept you're going to pay that little bit more.
Yeah. Isn't it funny that the one position Newcastle United need to strengthen above all else this summer, we can't find anyone that's going to...
It's the one player per club that's knacked it. I mean, so the options would be Semenyo. You're shaking your head at that. Who else?
Kulusevski. I don't have any Spurs players anywhere else in the team. I also don't have any West Ham players elsewhere in the team.
Well, I tell you what, right? I tell you what. As we're an interactive podcast, you guys watching and listening, you can pick the right winger.
Yeah.
You can't have Alanga because we've gone for Aaron's unrealistic right back choice from Forest. So you can pick someone else from Premier League side. Has to tally up with the rest of our 10 no picks. So wait until the end before you decide. I would pick Semenyo. I think that's more realistic than the Spurs chap. Again, the price tag, as you mentioned, probably means it won't happen. And look, I mean, Bournemouth can't be selling everybody, right?
Exactly.
Ripping up their team. Centre mid then?
The first one I've gone for, and again, I feel like you might scoff at us here, but it looks like he could be on his way out. Kobbie Mainoo at Manchester United.
I mean,
look, if the reports are to be believed, and look, again, I don't think Newcastle United are going to go out and sign Kobbie Mainoo. I don't, at this stage, think they're really probably going to go out and sign a centre midfielder, unless they have to. But if everybody is up for sale at Manchester United, including Bruno Fernandes, I think Kobbie Mainoo would be an absolute no-brainer.
Pure profit, isn't it, for them? I think the centre mid's really interesting, and my pick is Harvey Elliott from Liverpool, and he's kind of said he wants to go for first team football.
Yeah.
The centre mid position is a little bit like that right back position. It's not going to happen because that's where their biggest strength is. Joe Linton, Bruno Tonali, when fit, I think it's the best midfield in the Premier League, and that's not me being biased. I just think it is. You're laughing, but it is.
No,
And we discussed this, me and John Gibson, in the Let's Talk About episode last week about Lewis Miley, because we were saying, well, look, if you sell Joe Willock or Sean Longstaff, or maybe even both, but if you just sell one, you're going to have to bring somebody in. But who do you bring in? Because do you bring in someone that's better at this moment than Lewis Miley and stunt his development? Or do you bring someone in who maybe is behind Lewis Miley, he's a youngster and has to develop? Or do you bring someone who knows they're there for a bit of a backup, John Ruddy, the midfield department sort of thing? Now, Mainoo would come in and want to guarantee that he's in the first team picture. Is he better than Tonali? Is he better than Bruno? Is he better than Joe Linton? No. Is Harvey Elliott better than those three? No. It's a really difficult position to buy for, because I think they do need a body, but it's not a top priority by any stretch of the imagination. But they do need someone there But how do you sell that move to someone? And what sort of player, in terms of, is it a defensive midfielder? Is it an attacking midfielder? Someone who pulls the strings? And where in their career are they? Like, it's a really difficult sell.
Yeah, it is. And look, I think all the points there are made are valid. I just think if Eddie Howe spoke, didn't he, about taking advantage of clubs, and I think Manchester United are one of those clubs that are there to be taken advantage of because they are spending like mad on Mbeumo and Cunha and all these players, and they're going to need to balance the books. And I think if a player like Kobbie Mainoo, who's what, 19, 20, is he 20?
I'm not sure.
He's very, very young. Huge ceiling, looks fantastic. Already been in and around the England squad. I think, look, go and take advantage of it. I get your points there, and I think, look, it would probably stunt Lewis Miley's growth, but Newcastle United have got to fight on 4 fronts this summer. And look, a signing like Kobbie Mainoo would be future proof. Again, we don't think it's going to happen, but that would be my first pick. And yeah, look, I considered Harvey Elliott as well, but as you say, he's just done this big interview, hasn't he, about leaving to not sit on the bench. And I suspect that Newcastle probably would sit on the bench.
Yeah, so Harvey Elliott is my pick. But again, I think it's one of those, don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I'll give you Mainoo, just simply because we're going to have to decide that because I've only got one centre midfielder, to be honest.
Well, I've actually got 2 for my next position because I couldn't really decide. I was torn between Jacob Ramsey, which looks like it could be a realistic option from Aston Villa, or a player that I absolutely love and could be a fantastic rotational for Tonali, Sander Berg from Fulham.
Ooh, okay.
Really liked him at Burnley, really liked him at Sheffield United. Thought Fulham got an absolute steal, signing him for like 25 million. So one of those 2 would be my pick.
I do like Sander Berg. I mean, the Fulham chap that I spoke to a few times for the match or the view from the opposition last season just raved about Sander Berg.
So good, so good.
Good engine. And you could see him being the ready-made rotation for
Long-staff
Tonali.
Willock replacement potentially.
Again, you love Champions League football. I think that's I think that's more realistic than the 3 names we've mentioned, actually.
Yeah.
Sander Berg. I mean, look.
Do we go Ramsey and Berg as the 2 midfielders?
Potentially, but that means you would have to rule out my number 10. Okay. So I've gone one centre midfielder, 2 wingers, which leaves you totally open. But I wanted to get my number 10 in the 2 forwards. I mean, could I mention? I'm just going to say it for the giggles, really. Tyler Adams. Remember that name?
Who?
Tyler Adams.
I don't think you've mentioned it before, have you?
He was my
the lads who's still at Leeds.
He was my Liam Delap of 2 years ago, and he's had a great season actually at Bournemouth. Really looked the part, and he would offer that defensive midfield cover that Newcastle are probably lacking a little bit. But again, he'd won first team football. But you're building the squad; it's those sort of players you do go after. But I feel like we're ripping Bournemouth.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, they can't sell.
We'll take you. We'll take you. We're not being arrogant. We're just saying you've got a very good team. I've gone for an attacking midfielder.
Okay.
So simply because that's the position I've gone for. I've gone for El Khanouchi from Leicester.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 21 years of age. Admittedly, didn't have the best of seasons. He played 32 times, 2 goals and 3 assists in the Premier League. But I like him. There's something about him. And he was playing in a very, very poor side. He cost them 21 million from Genk last summer. There are reports that Wolves and Arsenal are in for around about 25, 26 million euros, which is about 23.5 million pounds, something like that. I think if you're building a squad, that is not a bad signing to have. I think he would come in, he'd be quite happy on the bench, coming off the bench as an impact player. He's got speed about him, close control. He can run it, the defence. He offers something different as well. He's versatile, can play, I believe, out on the wide as well, but he's mainly that number 10. But I think what we're seeing with reports and people you speak to, that Eddie Howe is maybe looking just to build a squad which can change in terms of that formation. I think next season, if he gets the right players, we'll not see him playing that same formation for the majority of the season. I think we will see him alternate, and he will need to. And for me, El Khanouchi could provide that.
Yeah, I think every time we speak about Leicester, or we have done in the past, and you say, who would you take? I think he was always the standout name, wasn't he? Yeah, look, 21 years old, 32 games in the Prem last year. He will go this summer. You can't see him staying in the Championship. I agree. I think, look, even when we're talking about Jacob Ramsey, who isn't your archetypical Eddie Howe midfielder, he can play a little bit further forward. He can play on the left. He's probably a bit more attacking minded than the likes of Longstaff and some of those other midfielders in there. So, yeah. El Khanouchi, I don't think many people would be against that. Do you suspect Leicester will be able to you'd probably recoup more than that 21 million?
I think based on reports.
Yeah.
Couldn't even read my own writing there because I thought the second S was an I.
Yeah, I was going to say, but El Khanouchi.
El Khanouchi. Yeah. So that's because my dodgy handwriting, but El Khanouchi. Yeah, I think genuinely, actually, out of the full list here of realistic and value for money signings, I think he could be one to watch.
Interesting.
So we're going to make a decision because. Go on then. I'll let you have one pick in the midfield. Are we saying Manu or Ramsey?
I'll go Ramsey. Why don't we go Ramsey, Berg, and El Kanous as a 3?
As a 3, you're going to play him a little bit forward then.
Yeah.
Which means when you have one
striker.
Well, we'll have to go on left first. So on the left wing first.
Yeah. Okay. You go for your left.
Got Odegaard from Tottenham.
Okay.
Joined from Burnley. I think it was either last summer, last January, was it maybe? 20 million at the time. He's 20 years of age. Didn't play that often for Spurs, and we know they had a terrible season. Probably will get a good chance under Thomas Frank when he becomes Tottenham manager. But I always thought he was a bright spark for Burnley in the season. They went down. I was a little bit surprised they sold him. And I don't know, can't quite remember how he was doing in the Championship at the time. 20 million wasn't a lot of money. Given he hasn't played much football, I mean, could Newcastle swoop in and try and get a good deal? Again, the left wing is kind of an irrelevant point because of the hold on to Barnes and Gordon.
Yeah.
And they're not going to bring a left winger in. They're certainly not going to go out and spend a lot of money on one. But again, in terms of building a squad, is £20 million that much of an outlay? If you sell a Longstaff or a Willock, there's a bit more money in the kitty there to maybe spend. And he's versatile as well. He can play in various positions. So that was the man that sprung to mind as a realistic potential option.
Yeah, he had a fantastic season with Burnley, didn't he? Before he went to Tottenham. Yeah, I'm not against it. I don't know how much he would cost or whether I'm assuming Thomas Frank will probably want to have a look at him.
Probably a little bit different had Spurs not got to the Champions League, I would imagine.
Yeah, and again, it feels like such a moot point even talking about left wingers because if they keep Gordon and Barnes, there's no need for one.
Are they keeping Gordon?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. I went for 2 slightly different options at first.
Stop saying 2. The idea is you pick one.
Sorry, no, I did pick one, but I'm gonna talk about the player that I did have written down and I crossed down because I thought, you know what, this has got Eddie Howe.
People describe you as Aaron sitting on the fence Stokes, and you're perfectly someone up wire. You're sitting on the fence with these choices.
No, I've made choices, but I've just done a little bit of, like I say, I did more research than you for these.
Scandalous.
Come on. First, hear me out because I was looking at this thinking, I've cooked here. This is so good. This is the exact type of signing Eddie Howe needs to make because he can get him back to his best. And I actually had Chelsea's Christopher Nkunku down on the left.
It's going to be such an interesting summer for him because he was signed.
He was signed so far in advance as well because they signed him from Leipzig and they had to wait a year to get him. And he started the season quite bright and then he's just tailed off. But I mean,
he had injuries, didn't he?
This is Chelsea, isn't it? They've stockpiled all these amazing attacking players and stifled them. It looks like he might go this summer along with Sterling and along with João Felix. I won't be touching those last 2, but Nkunku was my initial pick, but I've changed it. And I've gone for someone who would probably cost you a little bit less. And I've gone for Souvenir and Ndiaye of Everton.
Okay, I've seen a lot of people talking about him after the Senegal.
Yeah, really good against England the other night, but also just in general, I thought he was Everton's bright spot for most of the season. 9 goals for them in the Premier League. You play on the left, you can play as a 10, you can play as a striker. Really, really good player. Signed from, I want to say,
Sheffield United to Marseille,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, just on Nkunku, I mean, I was jealous when Chelsea signed him because he'd had such a good season. I enjoyed watching him for Leipzig. I thought it was a pretty good deal. £52 million, young, prolific, and it just hasn't worked out for him. And we could talk all day about Chelsea and their magical ways.
Well, we named off all those players last week on last week's Monday show, didn't we? The 10, 11 players that they've got.
Since then, they've been linked to another 10, 11 players. 2023, he joined, right?
Yeah.
Signing a 6-year deal, and they're just going to move him on. Like, are they going to recoup 52 million from him? Very, very doubtful.
Apparently, they want around 60 million euros. So what's that? 55. So
they'll be lucky.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can see him going back abroad somewhere, can't you? To a Champions League club abroad. But I mean, what, 6 goals for Chelsea in 2 seasons?
Yeah, in the Premier League, he has.
But I was just looking at that, thinking if there's one man that could get him back to his best, it would be Eddie Howe. But I did drop him out my team in the end.
He did score 7 goals in 11 appearances in the Europa Conference League.
Oh well.
Standards,
lofty standard of the competition.
I think our Monday Night Football standards are better than that competition. Interesting one there. I mean, look, if they won 60-odd million from or 55 million from, that's not going to happen.
It's a moot point. They're not going to sign left winger. So
and Ndyaye's interesting. Impressive on the last day of the season against Newcastle.
Yep.
He's a character as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
Who
great
remember
player. Really,
that celebration against Brighton.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting one, that one. I mean, how much would Everton want? He's probably the jewel in the crown, isn't he?
Yeah, look, I mean, he's one of their most important players. David Moyes won't want to be selling him, going into this new stadium move. But look, if Gordon or Barnes were to leave, then might be able to
He can play up top though as well, can't
yeah. And Eddie Howe, we know Eddie Howe wants a player who can play across a couple of positions. So
he? Just
yeah,
on
that was my
just on a man who can play across all positions. Not in the Premier League, admittedly, but has played in the Premier League and was pretty poor. But Lookman,
yeah, he's
Get on that.
he's always sort of linked, isn't he? Looks like he's probably going to leave Atalanta.
they've got a lot of good players.
Yeah,
a lot of good players. Okay, so I mean, left wing wise, it's interesting.
I don't know what we're doing with this team now. So we're going three in the middle. We've got to pick a right winger, but we're leaving that up to the viewers. Left wing.
I mean,
should we go and die?
Yeah, I think so. I actually think it's probably the most realistic one because
Thank you.
I think Spurs will probably see big things for them there.
And Kunke, it's not going to happen, and he'd be too much money. Okay, so now I did have two strikers written down because I obviously have 4-4-2, but now we'll switch it. My two, I predictably went for João Pedro. Brighton, he was my Brighton pick, and I went for Strand Larsen.
Oh, there's the goal.
Wolves.
No, because we've both got them up top. So we have to decide now between the two for the last position in the side because I've got Pedro and I've got Strand Larsen.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
I have to admit, if it was up to me, it'd be Strand Larsen.
Okay.
I think he's brilliant. I think he's a different kind of player to Alexander Isak. I think he's good in the air. The touch he's got on him, I just think he's fantastic to watch. I think he's got a good attitude as well. The interviews you see with him, he looks like just a proper nice gentleman. Pedro, it's his discipline that worries me. That really concerns me. I don't like the swinging of elbows and arms and stuff. It's just not the kind of player I want to see. And maybe you can call me what you want, a snowflake or whatever the phrase is these days, right? But I just don't like his demeanor on the pitch. If he signs, I love you, mate. But right now, there are concerns for me over his discipline and attitude.
We spoke about it last week, didn't we? There's shades of that Anthony Gordon signing where people had questions about his temperament, and Eddie Howe managed to get Gordon on the right track. But again, I do think he comes with risk tasks, just as Matheus Cunha did if he'd have signed. We spoke about that as well, didn't we?
Well, that's the thing that probably rules Strand Larsen now is that they've sold their other big man up top, and they've probably sold him for enough of a price that they don't need to sell any of the big stars. They had a tremendous end of the season.
Yeah.
And
looks like they could build and don't they?
But we see this now. We see Crystal Palace had a great end of the season and then they don't start very well and what have you. But I really do like Strand Larsen.
I remember watching Newcastle Wolves, and I can't remember if it was the home tie or the away tie, but I remember watching the game and Strand Larsen hit the post.
It was the away,
and forced Pope into 2 good saves, or Dubravka into 2 good saves. And I remember watching him thinking, he hasn't scored today, but he looks a real
I'm pretty sure it was away, yeah.
And then he ended the season really well. He was keeping Cunha out the team at points when he wasn't suspended, and he was scoring goals. And he looked like
35.
Yeah, looked like he found his feet towards the end of the season. He wouldn't come cheap, but neither would Pedro. I really like Strand Larsen. I think he's going to have a good season next season.
I think the only thing that, other than the kind of the seal of Cunha, I think he needs service though.
Yeah.
And is that the way Newcastle United play? Getting the ball in the box. I mean, that was
Jacob
kind of
Murphy, that's his style.
No, it was, but towards the last season, it was like, oh, Isaac's not getting the service. So I think Strand Larsen is even more of a striker who needs that service and crosses into the box. But he would be a tremendous backup to Alexander Isak.
Agreed.
I think if we're being realistic, because we know Newcastle like him, we know Newcastle United have started trying to get this move done.
Yeah,
we have to pick João Pedro.
Yeah,
I think if it was our choice, we'd pick Larsen.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So should we just do our choice?
Yeah,
fun in it.
That's how I thought,
Strand Larsen. There we go.
Okay,
there we go. Whoever the new sporting director is, pick up the phone, going on to Wolves. So there you go. There's our team. With you guys now needing to pick the right winger of this realistic who we'd like Newcastle United to sign this summer. And again, we don't want them to sign all 11 because, of course, the midfield 3 of Bruno and Joelinton and Toy is the best in the world and all that. James Trafford in goal. Go on, give them your right back.
Ola Aina at right back. Mark Gay and Nathan Collins centre back. Kyle Walker-Peters left back. A big question mark around right wing, and Ndiaye on the left. Midfield three of
Ramsey
Berg, and El Canus,
as a number 10.
and then a striker. So Eddie Howe's changing his formation already and going. Oh no, he's not. Sorry. Well, he's playing at Tennessee, and then Strand Larsen.
So I mean, out of the ones we've got, we know they're in talks with Trafford.
Yeah.
We know they like Gay
Yeah.
and want to sign him.
Ramsey's a possibility.
Ramsey's a big possibility, I think, come the last
Pedro,
week of
who
June.
obviously was narrowly missed out.
The rest of them are more our hopes, realistic hopes than anything else. But I mean,
just players we'd enjoy.
But you look at that team, and you know there are improvements in there.
Yeah,
definitely, most certain. I mean, Strand Larsen, I think, is an improvement on Callum Wilson. I think Ndiaye is an improvement. As he's not an improvement on Gordon and Barnes, but he's definitely an exciting player. He can play, I think, across the mid that forward three anyway. He would be a player that upgrades the team. Ramsey's got question marks over him, but he's definitely a talent. Nathan Collins, as I said, is just a tremendous centre back. And Kyle Walker-Peters is someone who would offer good backup.
Just looking at this team, we don't have any Chelsea players, we don't have any Manchester City players, we don't have any Man United players, Liverpool, Arsenal, or Spurs players. Interesting.
Are we going to get Pillars for that?
Nah.
Realistic options, ladies and gents. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on. Oh, there goes my phone. It's the agents ringing. Let us know your thoughts on our. How are we describing this? Realistic.
I don't know how we're going to do it. I'm just glad we've got through it. We've somehow made it work.
Realistic Newcastle United summer transfer signings. Work? Yeah. I'll come up with a better title for the thumbnail. Thank you, as always, gents. Let us know in the comments your choice for right wing and your opinion on any of the picks we've made today. Anybody that we've missed out. Pleasure, as always. For myself and Aaron, we'll see you guys next week.